Good day, everyone across the continent, and welcome to another live streaming discussion on the AfriDocs platform, looking and focusing on the films of the Generation Africa project, which are being released on a weekly basis on the platform AfriDocs. Today, we're going to be having a look at the short film Lend Me Your Voice from Rwanda, directed by Ndimbira Shenge in Rwanda, and it looks at trauma and the migration experience. So we're going to have the director of Lend Me Your Voice, Shenge Ndimbira Shenge, and Shenge is going to be in conversation with Mike Kayihura. So I'll first start by introducing Mike. Mike was born in 1992 in Nairobi and spent his early childhood within the Rwandan diaspora community in Kenya. His family relocated to Rwanda in the late 90s, where he found his roots and connected deeply with his country's heritage. From an early age, Mike pursued an interest in music, joined the church choir in Kigali, and learned most of the musical theory that he has in this context. He also started writing his first songs and became a piano player. After his graduation from grammar school, he decided to pursue a dream in a career in music and became a professional. And in fact, all he's ever done is what makes him truly happy. It's a good philosophy for life. He's exceptionally dedicated, passionate, and has a musical ear and feel like few others. Since the start of his professional career, he's already shown great versatility and extraordinary ability to fuse several genres and styles to blend his music, unique cultural background from East Africa, and more specifically Rwanda's tradition, and also other experiences from Ethiopia and the UK. So, he writes songs for other musicians as well, and he's currently working on his debut EP and an album which will both be released today. Right, so now I'd like to introduce Claudine Ndimbira Shenge, who is a Rwandan filmmaker who lives in Kigali, Rwanda. After Shenge's secondary studies, she took a 3-month short course in digital filmmaking at the Kwetu Film Institute. Since then, she's been to several workshops in different filmmaking departments. Shenge directed her first short film in 2013, and since then, she's worked as a scriptwriter, director, and producer. Her films made it into different festivals: the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles, Africamera Film Festival in Berlin, and the Vancouver Film Festival in Canada, and Africa Film Festival in Leuven. In 2018, she was part of the international class at the Film Academy in Baden-Württemberg in Germany. Shenge is a courageous and ambitious filmmaker who, gave us a very incredible story with Lend Me Your Voice. So I would like to now give both Shenge and Mike the floor to have the discussion about the film and its impact.
I believe that everyone has a story to tell, and our shared human experiences connect us one way or another.
Me voilà donc, arrêté alors que je cherchais ma mère.
Iryo joro umubiri wanjye wari wambaye ubusa buri wari wabaye nk'ikirago bamanitse ku mugozi bakagihura ku ivumbi ritumuke.
Ndibuka ko nageze aho nifuza guhera kugira ngo ntumva umubabaro biranga.
Munyemerere mbibwire. Nitwa Akili na Deje. Navukiye igoma muri Repubulika Iharanira Demokarasi ya Kongo mu mwaka w'1994. Umuvumo wakurikiranye data nuko yari ku ruhande rw'ingabo z'igihugu, hanyuma aza guhindura ajya mu nyeshyamba. Aho niho byazambiye duhera ko duhunga.
Naje kumenya ko papa yasubiye muri Kongo kureba iby'amasambu ye, agahurirayo n'ababagizi ba nabi bamuhigaga kuva na mbere baramwica.
Boxing was a form of release for me.
Hari umunezero udasanzwe uza iyo ubashije kumetiriza ibintu ugatsinda.
Le boxe est devenu l'amour de ma vie. La plupart des gens associent l'amour à la romance. Mais moi, j'étais attirée par le sport.
Okay. Good, good.
none se ni ryari uheruka gufata akanya ko kwitekerezaho no gutekereza ku byakubayeho?
I'm fighting.
Hello, my name is Mike Kayihura, and I'm a single songwriter here in Kigali. And I happen to be sitting here with Ndimbira Shenge, who is a filmmaker, director of the documentary Lend Me Your Voice. How are you doing, Shenge?
I'm doing great. How
Nice
are
to
you?
see you. I'm very okay. Deep documentary. The storytelling in this documentary is amazing, I feel, and it's I had the opportunity to do music on the documentary, this songwriting and composing on it, and it's really deep. I just want to know what it felt like learning about this story for the first time, and what you felt the conclusion of putting this together. Like, what were you expecting? What were your expectations around that?
For me, like from the beginning, when I started to work on this short documentary, like everything have been like a great experience to me. It was like I learned so much because of this film. So starting from when I had to look for the story, like actually everything was interesting. So as you know, it's part of the Generation Africa project, and at the beginning we did the workshops where we were with the other filmmakers who did the films as well. And at that time I didn't have like a story. I only had a style. I knew how I want to tell my story, which I didn't have at that moment, but I didn't have a story. So after the workshop, when I came back to Rwanda, I was talking to my friends, and then I was asking them, like, do you know somebody who was a refugee, who have been a refugee, or who is still a refugee? And then, like, the first person I actually asked told me, I actually know somebody who became a refugee twice, and that was Akili. So it's like when I met with Akili and she started to tell me her story, immediately I knew that she's going to be the person that I'm going to I don't know. I felt like I needed to tell that story. But also the story is not like it's a hard story, you know?
It's deep.
It's a hard life. It's very deep. So I wanted to make sure that by making this film, it's not only that I'm there as a filmmaker and make a film. I'm going to make a film, but also help her at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because the style that I wanted to use is based on something that happened to me and something that helped me. So that style you saw in the film, it's something that I lived actually. Some people once repeated my story as if it was their own, and in the end, it made me feel like. So I wanted that for Akili. So making that film was really like an amazing journey for me, and a great experience.
It's amazing. What was it like meeting Akili? Like, you heard about her story before, and then when you encountered her and saw her and then sat down with her and actually told her, look, I'd like to document this. Like, what do you think about it? Like, what was her reaction? Was it a hard thing? Was it a hard choice from her? Was it hard to get that going? How was it?
I remember because Akili is very chilled. You know when you have been through a lot, like most of the time you're very, very calm and easygoing. So it was not that difficult for me to convince her to let us do this together. I remember when when she was telling me her story, at some point she couldn't. Like, she really couldn't. So I had to come up with an idea. How do I make this easier for her? Because of course it's hard. So I shared with her my own story. So I started by sharing with her my own story, and then she started to open up. And we didn't do it like in one day. We kept on meeting. We didn't we didn't write the whole story in one day,
Yeah.
in one meeting. So we did it like different times. When I saw that it's being too much,
Yeah.
then we stop and then we start another time. But working with her was actually not that difficult. She understood everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, we started.
It's amazing. So you finished telling me your voice, and I think one of the things that I saw in the documentary was the women you brought to read, to narrate these things that when she went through. A lot of the women that I personally look up to, they're great. Getting those people together, the idea, I mean, it just makes it more, it makes the story more interesting, of course, but it just shows you the emotion that the women have as they're reading the stories is quite amazing. And when did you think of that? Was this something you thought of right away on the spot, or is this something that came along as you kept talking to Akili?
So actually, at the beginning, my idea was to go meet with strangers, like complete strangers. Maybe we go in the street or in the market, and then we are like, we introduce ourselves, of course, and then we're like, can you read her story?
Yeah.
But that didn't work. And then I realized that actually it wasn't a good idea, because it was like I was bringing a sad story like somewhere which is not like intimate. So in the end, I was like, I have to do it indoors, like where there is also like privacy, but also I have to look for people myself. I have to prepare these people who are going to read it, and I have to select them based on who they are or what they went through. Because when you see like Maria Johanna, like she's
Yeah,
you
she's
know
great.
who she
She's
is.
amazing.
She's great. She's
Incredible.
amazing, an amazing artist, but who went through a lot. Who went through a lot because she lost all her children during the genocide. So having someone like her reading Akili's story, like for me, what I was expecting is what I got, because she helped her so much. Like she gave her so much hope, and I could tell after they met. So, and the others as well, as you saw. As you saw, Gabi is someone that we went at the same high school, and she's an orphan. Like she lost all her parents during the genocide, and she could relate to Akili's story. That's why you saw her also crying. It reminded her what happened to her. So it's like you can see that they really were in Akili's shoes. So I tried to mix like artists, ordinary people, different ages and different like sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. That's incredible. I don't know. I wanted to ask you about. But before I ask, I mean, just to tell the people that they can write their comments down, and if they have anything to ask, feel free to write in the comments. But I wanted to know when you said you tried asking ordinary people, like the challenge within that, like what did you feel? Because like, and also I want you to also tell me, because like I'm thinking of it for you as you're telling a story that you've personally have an experience around, like what effect did it have on you? Like, what was the impact? What did you feel like when it didn't work out with the ordinary people? What was it like? What made you snap out of it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna actually look for people that have stories and that are quite interesting, and they can read this with that feel around it. Like, what was that?
So it's an experiment. Like you really never know what's going to work out or what's not. So it's like when I was starting to do it, I always had a plan B, because I knew that I want to try to do it in the public spaces. But if it doesn't work out, it have to be indoors. And in the end, indoors it was much better. But also when I did it in indoors, and I wanted to have like maybe somebody who sell bananas on the street. I wanted to have somebody who build houses, somebody who is just to have like a mixture of different people. But I remember with two people we couldn't edit, because the reading was also like another thing to consider. So it was an experiment, and many things we did just by trying and to see what is going to work out in the end. And we used like what we could edit in the end, and I think it worked.
It's amazing, yeah. As a storyteller, right? I mean, this is all storytelling. You're bringing other people's stories out. I just want to know the feeling you had, like when you finished it, Lend Me Your Voice, when it was done, or like when you put all the pieces together and you're done with it, and you're actually watching it, and you're like, "Oh, it's done." And what was it? What did it feel like? Like the accomplishment, but I also want to know exactly like the emotional side of this. Like for you, what was it like?
I remember because like when we were doing this Generation Africa project, they did the other films before, and my film somehow was done after, because also at some point I was also pregnant. I had to give birth and all of that, and also I think COVID also happened. Yeah, so this film was produced after COVID, and I was seeing like other people's films, like those ones that they did before me, and it was amazing. So many of them went to big festivals, and they got awards. And when you see those stories, they are really amazing. I was like, I can't wait for mine to go out. I was like, I can't wait for mine like to be out. And actually, what I remember, it's not when I finished shooting, because when you finish shooting, you're still stressed. You have like to do other things. What I remember is when it was selected in the first festival. It happened in the time when I was very, very stressed with life, and I just smiled because it was a very nice festival called Dogfest Munich. So it's amazing. It's like, actually, now that I have a baby, I can use this example of having a child. It's like when you've been pregnant and then after you see a baby, it's like, wow.
Like it's here. What do we do now?
Yeah. But the most like amazing thing about it is to see how people react to it, and in this case, to see how people really are trying to be in her shoes. It's great.
It's amazing. Yeah. Let Me Your Voice with Generation Africa. This is a documentary you can watch on Afri Docs. For those that haven't watched it. I want to know like the importance you say it has for these stories to be in those festivals. Like, what does it do for the up and coming storyteller? Like so many of them that are going to watch this, and obviously they'll have the opportunity to maybe watch this interview, maybe, and what does it feel like? What is it? The impact it has for you? You're telling such a deep story, a story that you sort of relate to as well, and what the importance do you feel it has to the community and the people that are finding themselves through storytelling? What impact do you feel it has? And I feel I'm saying this also based on, as a country, this is we're very storytelling based. There's so much to tell. There's so many stories, untold stories. So this is one of the things that open up those windows. So I don't know, what does it feel like to you? What is the importance of this?
You see, like even myself, when I was doing this film, I think it helped me a lot in a way that I wasn't even expecting it, and I think it can also do the same to the other people who are going to watch and who can relate to what we're talking about in the film. So I think it's this film and the style, the way it is made, it's the best tool of trying to be the best versions of ourselves as human beings. Because I think if we tried to put ourselves in people's shoes before we react to something, or before we say something like, come on, the world will be like a much better place. So I think it's a simple idea. It's a simple story told in a simple way, but which can make like a huge impact. It's not also only in Rwanda. This is like a universal thing. And actually, what I forgot to say is this. In the end, it's not only going to be screened in cinemas. it's meant to be an installation, and you know about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
Because you're part of it.
I'm part of it. I wanted to come back to that as well and go pedal back a bit to the challenges you're talking about. You mentioned COVID, and that was at a time where I remember you spoke to me, and you're like, "Look, I want you to do music on this." And I do remember I slacked a bit. I took my time with this because I was also facing different challenges of finishing my project, and which eventually was done. And I was like, "Wow." I want you to talk a bit about those challenges, and being a mom around that time, and finishing an actual film, sitting down and actually watching these other films being done, and you're like, no, I'm going to finish this. Like the challenges, like what was it? What was it like?
Yeah, of course, the challenges are always there. Like with a small child, first of all, she's like, they call them like COVID babies. Like COVID babies, they are like different. You know, they need to see their mamas near because they're used to it. They're used to see you there. So I remember like I had to bring like the whole team after shooting to my place. That's where we were having lunch so that she can see me. So I had to arrange things so that it worked out. And I was it happened because also I had a great team, so they were also very helpful with that. But I think challenges are always there. Sometimes also, I remember there's one day that I felt that we didn't do anything. You go on set, but something that doesn't work out as you planned, and it's like the money that you spent. It's like the time that you and there are always like challenges like that. But also, I remember when we were trying to finish the editing, like it was like those emails back and forth with the mentors, because we had mentors helping us with this. And it's like sometimes you see an email at night, and at the same time maybe the baby is crying, and then you're like, okay, I will look at that in the morning. But I mean, as a filmmaker, you get used to challenges. Also as an artist, also you can relate. So there are always challenges, but in the end it really works because you need to put it out there, and also you have deadlines, my dear.
No, it's very true.
There's no other way.
There's no other way. It's crazy because like you're speaking of that, and I'm thinking about when you spoke about this, and you're telling me about your child, and I was like, oh, and I was about to be a dad as well.
Oh, at the same time.
I remember we spoke on the phone. I don't know if you remember that. You're like, oh wow, interesting. I was like, by the way, I want you to actually do music for this, and at the same time I was also working on an EP. So when you say that, I definitely feel you. But I also want to talk about like Akili, what it's like to live away from home, growing up away from home, being a refugee, living in a country that's not yours. I mean, I was born a refugee as myself. A lot of us were. So I just want to know what it means for you, being able to tell that story now, and our homes are both, we're getting together. What is it like? What would you like to say about that?
So you said it well, because it's like Akili is in the place of so many people. Like so many people went through like a similar situation, especially like here in East Africa. And when you see the things that happened to Akili, they really, really ruined her life. When you're talking to her, you can notice, and also when she's telling you about what is going on in her life, you can see that really it destroyed her life. And not having a country, sometimes also I tried to imagine if I didn't have a country to call home, if I was somewhere where I'm like, okay, this is not my home at any time. I need a place to call home. So you see, it's something that I can't wish anybody to go through. It brings so many challenges, but also it really destroys somebody's mental health. And luckily, Akili now is in a much safer place where she's going to get a home. At the moment, she has a home, and people are looking after her. Like life is going to change for her. But before it was very tough. And imagine living in a refugee camp with like huge family, and things are not easy. And also you have like those wounds of
Yes.
the past.
Yeah.
And as you see also in the film, how she lost her chance of being like a boxer. All of those things, they really made her life like unbearable. But in the end, she's strong. She's
Yeah.
strong, and I think also this story tells
Yeah.
about like um, how do you say this? Say it. I think you can say it better than me. Perseverance.
Perseverance.
Yes.
Yeah. Perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's deep. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's so I mean personally when I watched it as well, as I was maybe thinking about the music and whatnot, it's one of those things where I think about the young girl, that's growing up here. It empowers the woman herself as well to see, look,
Mm.
and the fact that you managed to get people like Maria Johannes to say this and,
Mm.
and read these stories, and I don't know, what do you have to say to like a young African storyteller that's coming up, film director, everything? Because like the storytelling is part of the healing, I believe. So you were playing a major role in not only Akili's healing, but whoever's going to watch it, and know somebody that's. What does it mean to you, like when you if you're to talk to a young storyteller, like what does this mean, doing this kind of thing as a full scale pattern?
Mm. So I think it's easier for me to explain this using my own example. So when I was very young, I was very silent for so many different reasons, and I didn't know how to communicate. But luckily, I had a talent of writing. So my way of communication became writing. So I started with writing stories, short stories. And then after I was writing music, I still write music. I also did
Yeah.
songs in
I know
Barbara.
about that, yeah.
And in the end, I started making films. I started with fiction, but after I realized that I'm much more interested in documentaries. And when I was starting, I actually couldn't picture myself being where I am right
Yeah.
now. So it's like, really, when you go there and you do your thing and you really try to be serious about what you're doing. I mean, it's not going to fall from heaven and happen, but it can happen. It doesn't matter where you're from. Come on, I come from the village, but um, I'm happy of where I am today. So what I can tell them is to try their best and do what they can to reach their dreams, because it's possible. And there are so many examples of so many people who came from like
Yeah.
difficult situations, and then look at Viola.
Yeah. Well, indeed.
So never give up.
Never give up, indeed.
Yeah.
Power to the African woman. Like
Mhm.
this is, I mean, this is it. This is one of those things. It's part of the pattern, and and I mean, look, we're doing this together. I believe. I managed to do some music on it, and yeah, I believe we'll do more of this. And we're going to be doing this together, and look forward to that.
Yeah.
Doing some more music for. Would you work with me again if you had the chance?
Always, if I had the chance.
I mean,
If I had the
there's
chance.
no more lockdown.
No,
Yeah, so I
no more
believe there's no more
excuses.
there's no more excuses. No. So we can
So
definitely,
I actually wanted to ask you a question, but it was you asking the
yeah.
questions. But
You can
I
ask,
want to
yeah.
ask you a question, because I when I asked you to do the music, I didn't know how it's going to be, how you go. I was like, yo, Mike, this is how the film is.
Yeah.
You need to be in her shoes as well. When you're in her shoes,
Yeah.
make the song. So how was it for you? Because I want also to know about it. We didn't talk about this. Like
No.
after you
Yeah,
sang the
it
song.
was like so much going on, and I feel like once we talked about it, that was it. I sent it in, and we didn't speak much about it after that.
No.
The next thing I think was you sent me the final.
Mhm.
Nobody was really watching it. I remember watching it with a friend of mine, Darius, and it was really like, wow, this is really deep. And the fact that we watched Maria around doing all that, we were working on my EP at the time, so that eventually came out. and we're grateful for that. But it was such an emotional process, you know, because you're done. The project is there, but it's about, like you said, the final touches, the editing, and, you know, like if you shoot stuff, but then implement it into the final touches, like that was so challenging. And then it was also it was just challenging at the moment. It's just everything was all over the place. We were broke. Wow, it was crazy. We were so broke. And then you know, so eventually, you know, you came to like, yo, by the way, you're gonna do this, and there's some money in it. And I was like, wow, okay, we're gonna have to do this track. We have to do it. And then the crazy thing is, we wanted to do it with the producer who was working on the EP, but he was so hard to find. We had to find another producer to work on it. So that was one of the things I was a bit worried, as I'd never worked with him, and I was like, okay, let's see how it sounds. And then obviously, you know, I'd play the keys, and he has his own total different style of creating. The good thing is I had piano laid down, and then the humming and everything. It's just something that instantly it was just natural for me watching that. The little humming that came through, and then the chord progressions. But just the story itself just hit me, you know. It's like you said, there's so many people you've obviously seen that have such similar stories regarding to those talents. You know, as a boxer, I've met musicians themselves who can still do it, but they just mentally like off tune. They're like, no, I can't. This is not for me. But it's there. It's in them. So I feel like it's something that, you know, it was hard in the beginning. Watched it through, but then once we laid down the basics for the audio, keeping in mind of all of that as well, the challenges going through, it's just it just flowed really, you know.
I like the song a lot. I was like, yes, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't also want like something crazy, because I wanted something that came from somebody's heart, like something that you mean. And like that's how you did it. I'm actually very grateful for that. Thank you.
I get to hear it in person.
Yeah,
Finally.
you get to hear it in person.
Really,
Yes.
you know?
It was really amazing.
It's really cool. And then it's just one of the. Are you still in touch with Akili?
We talk on a weekly basis, because she's still trying to get used to her new life, her new place. So we're still in touch, and
is boxing something she still considers?
She's looking forward to it. Like she was telling me that now she's about to buy like new equipment so that she can start to to train again.
It's amazing. It's really cool. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot to talk about, like regarding I'm thinking of the woman, right? Empowering the African woman, because as it is, like even in our industry, music itself, like the female artist herself, there's a few artists that are doing it right now, and they're pushing the female artists to come through. But there's no sense of freedom for them yet. You know what I mean? When it comes to that, and I believe it's the same thing with the sports too. Like it's changing in different sports. I don't know. So I really feel like what you're doing with this documentary is amazing. I think it's waking up. We all have a job to do with that, you know, regarding that 100%, and speak about it and push through it. So I think what you're doing is amazing. It's so nice to be here to ask you these questions and talk to you. So thank you for this. Thank you for talking about Akili and bringing her to the light and doing what you do.
Thank you too. But I think maybe one last thing that I could say is there are people who are doing like much more than what I'm doing, because like when you see like this project of Generation Africa, like it's really amazing. I remember I told one of the producers that it's like it was the first workshop that I did, and I was like really like wow, because of the people I met and the stories that I've heard and all of that, the mentors that we had, and what came out, like how the films in the end made it into like big festivals and they won. And when you see like U-Turn, No U-Turn of EK, when you see No Simple Way Home, or the others like Fatty's Choice, the others, they're all on Afri-Docs, as you said. They are really amazing, and to see how like these people, these filmmakers from Steps, like what they're doing, and now they're actually doing like this, the Generation Africa 2.0. It's like This time it's about like climate change. Now I can't really wait to see what's going to come.
It's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, so I'm looking
There's a
forward
lot
to
going
that.
on regarding climate right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel like though when you first got into the festival? When you made it through, what did you feel like? The emotional side of it, like.
It was amazing.
'Cause it's
You
your
know,
baby,
like
yeah.
when you see your film on a big screen,
Yeah.
it's like me. I'm always like, I don't like to be in front of people.
Right.
I'm always stressed when I'm in
Right.
front of people.
Right.
But that time, like to watch the film and to see people having like being emotional, and I was like, yeah, it really worked. In the end, it really worked. And can you imagine? It was in Germany, and they don't know they can't relate easily
Right.
to
Of
the
course, yeah.
the story of
Right.
people from here, but it was amazing. I was also a bit because I left the child, of course, behind. It was my first time not to be with her, but like everything was really it was a great experience. I loved it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's. I mean, I want to also say thank you for giving me the opportunity to do music on this. It's my first sounds. The first few sounds I've done for a movie or a documentary regarding storytelling. So it's such an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to do many
We're gonna
more.
do some more.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Like before.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.